Elon has gained and lost more money than Donald Trump has seen in his entire
You're not going to knock
just
into
in the
that
last 6 months.
among the base.
Just in the last 6 months.
I mean, he obviously has that kind of influence, monetary influence, and it could make a difference in an election. But don't undercount the influence of the president among Republican primary voters, his base. They are all enormously happy with him. He is the unquestioned leader of the party. And what he says still very much goes inside of the Republican Party tent. I believe that will include primaries next year.
Does it include people who lose their access to Medicaid or the ones that lose their SNAP
illegal
benefits?
aliens? They don't vote anyway, so I don't guess it'll matter to.
Are you saying that only undocumented
I'm saying
people
we're going to
Medicaid?
make sure that no undocumented
11
person
million people are going to lose their health care.
We're going to make sure that illegal aliens and folks who won't get off grandma's couch and try to work are not going to scam the system, and we're going to preserve it for the people who need it.
Yeah, the able-bodied work provisions, I think that's something to
define it.
What if you get sick and you can't work?
Get to the point.
If you need it, you'll
define
have
it.
The program will be
So in addition to that,
define able-bodied. Define it.
Get up and go to work, right?
No, but define it, because there is a working poor in this country. You do identify with that. There are people who work 40 hours or more in this country that cannot afford the basic necessities, including insurance.
They're going to have Medicaid.
But there's a gap in many places that don't expand Medicaad.
Okay, so you know who determines who gets Medicaid for the most part, right?
Yes, I
Not
was in the state.
government.
I was in the state legislature.
Right?
Yeah, I got
Council,
you. I got it.
Right.
I was there for a
Biden
decade, 8
administration
years. So for people fact checking,
can't take anybody off the rolls, right? What this bill does is say states, you can take people off the rolls now.
Correct.
If they're ineligible. Right?
Okay.
So if they're ineligible, they're going to go off the roll.
How are they ineligible?
Okay.
So
I've said this many times at this table. You can't just say if they're ineligible. You have to also
define what you're talking
you also
about.
have to acknowledge. Hold on. You have to acknowledge that this bill makes more people ineligible. That's part of what the bill does.
If they don't meet work requirements.
If they don't meet work requirements.
Work requirements are such that people who are currently already working may not meet the requirements under this bill. So people who are working now are going to, some of them, not meet the requirements under this bill.
Why wouldn't they meet it? Why wouldn't they meet it?
Okay, I've given this example many times. I'll give it again. The bill has a provision that says that if you have a child who is older than the age of 7, you have to meet a higher work requirement level. So if you're a mom, a single mom, and you're the only person taking care of a child, and you have a 14-year-old or a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old, the bill says you have to work a lot more. Some people are not going to be able to do that. They may lose their Medicaid. So the bill has provisions in there that create gaps for people. But look, you can defend that.
No,
I'm just saying be
I do
honest
think
about
Senate,
it. That's all I'm saying.
That's where I think
you can't just say it's like if you're ineligible, if you're lazy, if you're cheating. It's not those people.
It is, but it is.
It's not just
that's the literal target. It is the literal target.
It is not target. Everyone deserves health care.
Even illegals?
Every single person in the world deserves
Just for the record,
care.
as a candidate, you're for illegal aliens getting Medicaid.
I think everyone in the world deserves
That's a yes.
healthcare.
That's a yes.
I'm such a
That's a Democratic position.
It is a yes, but
yeah.
It's a Democratic position. Illegal
deserves
aliens should
healthcare.
get Medicaid.
But I mean,
How is it controversial?
How is it controversial?
How is it controversial if they don't want someone to die in the hospital because they can't afford
Who do you
it?
think pays for health care when undocumented people show up at a hospital? Who pays for that?
We all pay for it.
Exactly.
including
we all
undocumented
pay
people,
for
because
it.
they actually contribute.
That's the point. That's the point.
We do realize that
undocumented
Who pays for the welfare system in this country generally? Taxpayers.
And perhaps everyone else that there's no free lunch here. Okay, you either have
for the illegals.
You either have a program.
but they contribute.
Hold on. There's a reason that some states have decided to do this. You either have a program that rationalizes those costs, or you just throw the cost onto taxpayers by default. And so people who have insurance end up paying a lot more because they're subsidizing people who don't.
Can I make a different argument, though? Can I make one different argument, just so we can kind of level set? Like, for example, if you actually go through with this and the number of people on Medicaid decreases, what happens in rural places like Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, where I'm from, that means that hospitals are more likely to close down. Healthcare providers are more likely to shutter. What happens when a hospital closes in a poor rural community? Well, one second. One second. Do you know what happens when that happens? That means the pharmacy closes down. That means the little motel closes down. That means the florist closes down. The restaurant. It destroys your entire economy around it.
So by definition,
so many hospitals closed since Dobbs
by
because
definition,
they're afraid of the liabilities.
According to your logic train.
Yes.
We need to let more illegal aliens into the country, give them more health care to keep all the hospitals.
Let me tell you what I'm saying.
Are you for it or not?
Can I start my logic train with you?
Are you for it or not?
My logic train starts with the fact that
say
I don't
yes.
want to kick 11 million people off
Do you
of
want
Medicaid.
the illegal aliens on or not?
First of all, do I want undocumented citizens to have
say
health care?
yes.
The answer is yes.
Scott,
Okay.
if someone is
More
undocumented,
Democrats.
do you want them to not get insulin if they're diabetic?
I want Medicaid to exist first and foremost for American citizens who need it. That is what I
about
want.
second? I mean, first and foremost, of course. But
I want the
also,
program
do you
to
realize,
exist and be
do you
solved for
realize
the
that?
people who
Do you
need it.
realize that when people show up at your hospital, that we actually pay for that? Do you understand that when people get sick,
I know
or when
how it works.
How about this? How about this? When the people that are picking your peaches. Yeah, I'm passionate
Very
about Americans.
passionate for the illegals.
Bakari,
No, I'm passionate for
How
Americans.
dare you want people to be alive? How dare you?
Passionate for the illegals.
you
Bring
know,
more.
No, I actually want
But yes,
safe and secure borders.
You need more. To make your vision of America work, we need more illegals who get more benefits. That's your version of America.
No, what I want from America is a place that was promised to us, Scott.
To the
like you
illegals?
do. No, it was promised to us. It was promised to us,
who?
not us, me and you, black and white, brown. Scott, do you think that your family was
You were born
here?
here.
You weren't born here, Scott.
I was born in
First of all,
Dawson Springs.
where does your family come from? My family wasn't born here. My family was actually from Sierra Leone.
You're making a passionate argument
correct
for a
about what
country
our country's-
built on unfettered illegal immigration, and that is not
No,
anywhere
our
near
country,
a politically popular
Our
position.
country is built on immigration, period.
What kind?
Period.
What kind?
Okay.
Oh, and first of all, before we go to commercial, what kind of immigration was I brought here
You're already
with?
in the hole. You sure you don't want to stop
No,
digging?
because it was slavery. That's not immigration.
Come on.
Well, okay.
Come on, what?
All right, there's a lot to be said.
Come on.
Hold on.
No, but you just can't
We-
say come on when somebody's like, my family was brought here in chains. The answer's not come on.
We're going to continue the conversation. There's a lot to be said about when immigration laws came into play in this country and how many people who came to this country as immigrants had neither legal nor illegal status and just were
Correct.
able to come. But that's a different story for another time.
Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones. Slaves are immigrants now. Black American slaves are immigrants. Man, I should have wore a shirt with no undershirt, my chest open like old boy to pay homage to the crazy stuff they were talking about on there. But man, here we are breaking down this clip. I played the whole clip so we could have the context of the conversation. I scrolled through YouTube, and shout out to the Sabby Sabs YouTube channel. I came across her channel, and she was speaking about this, but she had like a short clip of it. And so I went and found the full video. And as you can see, that's like half of the full video right there, where they were talking about healthcare, immigration, and things. And then toward the end of it, Bakari Sellers got passionate. And from my understanding, his comment set the internet ablaze because he's talking about slavery, basically equating slavery to immigration. And I'm not a spelling bee champion. I was a C student. I'm not saying I'm the smartest dude in the world, but I ain't dumb either. But I didn't, y'all help me. I didn't know slavery was immigration. I didn't know that. Did we just learn something new, or what we got going on? But in the larger context of the conversation, they were talking about basically healthcare being cut for illegal immigrants. Yet the white man making the argument for American citizens to be first and foremost for healthcare, and others are they're making half-cocked disingenuous arguments because they are arguing for the illegal immigrants to get the same kind of healthcare that we get, but they're not trying to explicitly come out and say it. And then there's a couple things that they said that actually made the white man's argument that didn't make no sense. I'm like, why did they say this? But like the white dude said, you're very passionate. So that was funny. But we're finna get into it, man. PC, man, let's kick it off with you. Like, help me. When did slavery become, when was slavery synonymous to immigration? Help me out, because you the historian on here, man. So when did that happen?
Well, first of all, Joe, we're all historians. Hold on one second.
I know. Hey, no, I ain't gonna let you do that. No, you're gonna take that title and run with it. Nope, you a historian.
My phone went off that time. Well, first of all, man, we don't deal with nothing but facts over here. As a matter of fact, roll the camera. We got content. Shout out to Whack 100. That, you know, I guess you could say is immigration the same way you could say that grape is consensual sex for one person. Like for the person that's actually the aggressor or the rapist, it's just, you know, I mean, yeah, I mean, you can get to the psychology of it all, but at the end of the day, you know, I mean, it's a ridiculous argument, and I think sometimes and what's the white guy named Chuck or something like that?
I don't know nobody named but Bakar Sellers on. I ain't even gonna lie to you.
Yeah, these guys got to stop trying to be the ultimate victims, man. When you talk about slavery, and when you bring it into a conversation like this to try to legitimize your fight for undocumented immigrants here in America, because they've been given undocumented status. It's not illegal, it's undocumented status. It was given to, I'm not sure if it got stripped yet, but I know it was a presidential order, an executive order that Joe Biden signed to allow immigrants who are undocumented to come to this country and receive specific benefits. So last I checked, that's what it was. You can't compare any form of immigration to slavery, chattel slavery here in the Americas, because first and foremost, it wasn't a choice.
Right.
They didn't wake up one day and decide, you know what?
Let's go find a sheep and get on it. They didn't do that.
Like, you know, they said, you know what? Let's turn it into an adventure. Let's go get in chains in the worst humanly possible situations in the bowels of a slave ship with rodents and all types of stuff. People dying on the voyage with us, and we literally have to lay there with the decaying carcass as they start to throw them overboard, as well as deal with the inhumane conditions of coming here, being stripped of our language, being stripped of our culture, and being stripped of our religions and spiritual systems, being restricted of all those things. The people who have come here after that, the people who were invited here, the people, whether they served as indentured servants or not, they had a choice and option. They got to maintain their heritage, culture, and language and customs. Those people came here of their own volition. Let's just be clear on that. Right. And for those who say that there were black people here, guess what? They were snatched up off the street too. And they were put in chains and bondage and placed on the street by the wall to be purchased, which then later became Wall Street.
Not to cut you off, but to that point, because we have to make sure that at least us who are on this channel and watching this channel understand the real. I saw a video the other day scrolling through TikTok, and somebody was like, black people in America, black people weren't slaves. Black people were in America before the Europeans got here. Right. But what happened to the people when the Europeans got here? Are we forgetting that?
Yeah. And let's be clear about something too. It doesn't matter what you like, because those black people still ended up in chains. Those black people still ended up as chattel. And for those who didn't, they escaped to the woods and the swamps, and they became the Geechees that we talk, the Gullah Geechees that we talk about in folklore to this day, because we really don't even understand the significance of them able to function that way. Even though Pirates of the Caribbean touched on it. If you watch Pirates of the Caribbean, and they found
the first one?
It was the second one.
Okay.
When they had to go and bring Jack Sparrow back from the, and they had to go to the voodoo sister in the movie. I forget her name.
The Yemen Yah character.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, when people try to, and I think he was just in his feelings and he got riled up.
Yeah.
And
Democratic rage.
Yeah. This is one of those conversations that I'm sitting here and I'm even looking at the policies, because I know I know you like to dissect and jump into piece by piece, so I don't want to get too far ahead. But to say that for black people who are squeamish when it comes to standing on business, when it comes to black politics, things that benefit specifically black people, these politicians always shy away from being bold and stepping into their voice and stepping into power when it comes to representing us. But yet and still, they go out there and they go into a tirade to the point where they can be emotionally erratic when it comes to defending other groups of people. I wouldn't even have a problem with you defending other groups if you actually stood on business when it came to yours. But just like those cowards in the California Senate, state Senate, when it came to or the California state legislature when it came to bringing forth the conversation of reparations, when it was literally one step away from being a state bill, and none of those cowards stepped forward. But the same ones are out there in Los Angeles and Compton right now, tearing up the city or out there protesting and being arrested. I saw a woman out there yesterday. I think somebody was trying to walk to their apartment and got shot with a beanbag because the cops told her not to go. And it was a white woman. And this black woman ran across the street. She put her cape on. I don't know if she was flying or bouncing, but she got across the street and had like a kid.
Yeah.
And she performed triage on the street. I'm like, damn, where is that at in our neighborhoods? Because y'all can't even identify the shooters. And when it comes to our neighborhoods,
Never.
like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. I'm just gonna land this one right now because I mean, I don't even know what more to say, but some people just need to know when to shut up.
Yes.
Like the white boy had him. He was like he egged him on, and he was like, "You sure you want to go down this road?" And I'm sitting there like, "You don't want to go down this road,
bruh." I'm sitting at the first, like when I was looking at it on the Sabby Sabs YouTube channel, and I'm just sitting there watching it. I'm like this, this white dude like got a collar around your neck, like leading you down here, and you foolish enough to keep going with it. Like he making more sense than you. Like he making more sense than you about black history.
Your argument for you. What he's saying is black people deserve what comes with being a citizen of the United States.
But I know some people gonna run with this, but Bakari did talk about his Sierra Leone lineage, so people gonna be like, well, he's a tether. but he gave them the ammo. He here called me a tether because I'm gonna say some dumb stuff.
Man, here's what I'm gonna say, man. I mean, I already pretty much said what I was going to say, but
pile it on, my brother.
Man, this is embarrassing. This is, the conversation that we had about black men and the masculinity and how that's going. You sound like a whimpering Mitch on the joint out there. What about, and I hate the fact that I hate when men make that qualified I'm safe hurt voice when they cry or I don't know what. I'm done.
Hey, no, but I laughed when the white dude said, "Oh, you sound Democratic." I was like,
we really want to call him sassy, but I'm gonna leave that alone.
Hey, Pat. All right, so I wanna take it a bit different place with your question because PC helped lay the foundation for this. So,
hold on, Joe. Y'all, yeah, if you haven't pushed that like button,
I'm getting there. But yes, you saw the finger. I was setting it up. But
oh, my bad, I jumped the gun.
Nah, but while we on it, you see that finger, hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and share this content. These conversations are needed. I appreciate everybody in the comments who really appreciate and enjoy the conversations that we have and are getting something out of these conversations, because that's the main reason why we're doing these conversations. And we also encourage you to apply take practical application and making sure that your life and the community around you is better. So making sure that you are contributing to that. But the way we do that, the way we get this information out more is to share it and hit that like button, comment, and make sure more and more and more people know about On the Shoulders of Giants. And I appreciate all of you. And my memberships are active now, so you can become a member of the On the Shoulders of Giants channel. And, you know, you can do all that stuff. You can hit the super like button, and ways to support us is in the description, all of that stuff. So, Pat, all right. There we go. So, Pat. You heard him basically equate slavery to immigration. So
I heard it.
Why do you think that there's a sector of Black people who like to equate the Black experience and the Black struggle to the experiences and struggles of other non-white people? Why do you think they do that? Because it doesn't help us. It hurts us. But they continue to do it because basically that's what Bakari Sellers was doing. Not explicitly, but he was basically equating, hey, Black people had this experience, these immigrants are having this experience that's similar to Black experience, so we should understand it and support it. So why do you think we always have to, or those people always have to equate the Black experience to whatever all other non-white people are doing?
I think it's the current wave of trying to find a way to humanize Blackness. Like, I think they're still trying to connect with other groups because they feel disconnected. In my opinion, it's a way that weak people attempt to gain power in powerless situations. Like the whole premises of it is centered around if I present myself in such a way, then you'll be my friend.
So you think you're saying they probably think they would get group power from the other groups?
Yes, they're trying to build, and they say it all the time, trying to build alliances. We're trying to build networks, trying to build coalitions. What they fail to do is analyze the results of those alliances and coalitions. I mean, we were just talking about one a couple months ago. Maybe that was last year, and we was talking about the BIPOC coalition that was created.
Yeah.
Which was an extension of the POC coalition. Before that, the POC, people of color, and then they added the two letters in front of it and made it bi. And then, you know, so now they're always trying to go. Yeah, that was a bar. They always trying to go. They're always trying to find a way to stand with other people because they're afraid to stand for themselves. And so I think that's what I hear whenever, because you never hear it said from a position of strength. You know, you never hear it. You never even hear it said from a person speaking with a tone and a character of strength. It's always when somebody's gotten triggered or emotionally gut punched or liver shotted, they reeling and they just reach for that. Oh, what about when we were Black? You know, it's slavery or what? It's always something along those lines. And it's usually always a disingenuous and one-sided effort in terms of who's putting in the work to establish the relationship. They never say the reverse of it, which would be, well, if the immigrants, you know, if those people coming over from other countries into this country for whatever reason, because I'm not going to, you know, it's not just one reason, right? But they're coming over into this country, you know, and I heard just last week one of them saying, you know, I feel like we need to do more for the Black people in America. I feel like we need to really do what we can to make sure that the Black people in America, to make sure that their voices are heard, to make sure that they have the resources that they need. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into America and we're going to go into those Black communities and we're going to become a part of the community and we're going to build infrastructure. We're going to build stores and alliances. We're going to do all of those things with the Black people. You never even hear that argument, which there would be pushback to that too, but you never hear that argument. It's always, well, you know, we know what it's like to be oppressed. And we should help all of the oppressed people in the world, because we know what is. When do the oppressed people in the world say, you know what? Now that we're being oppressed,
I mean,
it's not fun.
I mean, it's like, at what point do we stop being foolish and stop playing the game, playing a losing game of alliances and friends? Like, how many times we got to say it, Dr. Clark? Everybody's favorite Dr. Clark clip. Look in the mirror, you have no friends, right? Because, we were talking earlier when we was on the phone. I'll tell you about the Facebook post that I saw, the guy talking about, if you don't, like, there are black people who don't support the immigration, but these same black people don't support black people. And I'm like, yeah, that's an easy little cop out, little funny, little slick, little statement that you could throw at black people because you're doing a little something.
Wait,
But
what was it again?
Oh yeah, I remember.
There are black people who are saying don't support the immigrants are the same black people who don't support black people.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. Okay.
And I was looking at some of the back and forth in the comments that were him and another gentleman was going, and the guy who made the post, his argument was, well, this is a human rights issue, so we basically have an obligation to the world because it's a human rights issue. But hell, what's going on in Flint is a human rights issue, and that motherfucker ain't fixed yet. What the immigrants own that?
It's funny, but that goes back to what I was saying. Why is it whenever anybody else is being oppressed, it's a human rights issue? Like, why don't we get
civil rights with us?
Yeah, why don't we get to have human rights issues that all of these other oppressed people are recognizing? And that's why I'm saying I think it's another attempt by people that aren't comfortable with where we are to try to connect to other people. It's another attempt to try to humanize blackness in the eyes of people that I'm not going to say they don't view us as human, but I'm going to say that we have very little indication that they view us as human.
But I think those people are also short-sighted and not as well versed on history as they may think they are, because the idea is these people, because they know some form of oppression, that these people will align with us and these people will be our friends. We don't understand, like, history tells us, especially dealing with the black man, the African man, that history tells us that everybody who pretends like they are our friends end up stepping on us. History shows that.
I think it's about, sometimes these people are social misfits who don't feel like they're part of the black community for real. They don't fit in any particular way with the folk. They feel culturally estranged. One reason or another. Maybe they were never hip, and maybe they were never part of the in crowd. Maybe they were never popular. Maybe they were seen as outcasts. I don't know. But from what I've observed is typically those black people who feel like they need to go on this tangent. Now, I'm not going to say all, because when you start talking about the politically astute, oh, this is a money grab. This is a political push to create either a voting block, or to figure out a way to juxtapose some bread on the cash grab. It's not sincere, and that's the worst part about it. Now, like Pat was saying, and you both were alluding to, you rarely ever hear the other groups consolidate. Like individually, yeah, we have members of the Latin community that will politic across the line, benefit. I know a few good brothers who identify as Latino. They also recognize their Afro-Latino nature. I mean, their culture as well, and heritage. But collectively speaking, it's not a shared struggle. What it is black people running to the aid, and you don't have any conditions. It's kind of like Juneteenth in a way, but we gonna get to Juneteenth one day when we talk about Juneteenth. But it's more so along the lines of, you can't keep running to a group when you don't have leverage in the relationship to make sure that you can maintain balance. And when you're powerless and you run to a group that actually has some power, all right, These groups are not powerless. Otherwise, they would have been out of here
Right.
yesterday. They
Right.
have some power, whether it's political power, whether it's from the countries they come from, collectivism.
Kind of group power, some kind of group power.
Yeah. And so all you do is become absorbed into their power vacuum, to their power base, and you create a power vacuum within your own communities. And so you become useless to us. Because go ahead, Joe.
So maybe a week or two, maybe last week or the week before last, reading Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Black Labor, White Wealth, he was talking about how the Egyptians were having issues with the British with colonization. They invited the Arabs in to help them expel the British. Well, the Arabs did help them expel the British. And then we know the rest of the story, because who's in control of Egypt now?
They be disrespecting the hell out of the African monuments over there too. They out there selling leaflets and sandwiches and all types of stuff outside the pyramids, but you can't do anything on their sacred spaces.
But even more to that point, like how delusional I think Bakari Sellers is. He was like, America was promised to us. America was promised to us, to you, the white, black. No, you're talking about a promise that wasn't promised to black people, right? But even if it was, we're talking about the same people who have a history of breaking promises, and you believe that?
You know, my brother Jeff Weaver, shout out to Jeff, came up with a book called Five Fists, No Compromise. In this book, he details the fact that black people have never been considered whole people in this country, never been given the rights to free reign. Like we talked about before, even the concept of citizenship is not fully our born right here. It had to be constitutionally amended. So when you talk about what's been promised to black people, the only thing they promised is to take us out the shackles. Even if you look up the concept of emancipation proclamation, like emancipation basically means you're free from one ownership to another. It does not mean liberation and freedom. And that is was guaranteed to the actual citizens of this country, not just via the Constitution, but also the Declaration of Independence.
But bro, these same, and not brother you, but him.
I know.
These same people that you're saying we need to cape for are coming to America, getting the promise that you say was promised to us. They're getting that promise and ignoring us, ain't looking back, ain't helping, ain't doing nothing, but because they see us as competition. And you, the crazy one, who think we're supposed to side with the competition that has no history of showing up for us, even till this day. What are we talking about? Button your shirt up.
Well, Joe, you started this because you called me the historian, so we're going to go down this road.
Let's go.
First of all, let's really examine the whole notion of why the country opened up the floodgates to Ellis Island and all the shores on the East Coast and San Francisco and the Golden Gate on the West Coast. Let's examine why that actually happened.
And open the floodgates to European countries.
Right. That's because during the turn after the Civil War, all the skills craftsmen that black people, were performed by 95% of the countries, blacksmiths, metalsmiths, wood masons, and brick masons. All those were black people. Well, now you didn't have anybody to compete with black people on the open market, which is why you saw the boom of black towns and black business districts all over the country. So what they had to do to compete with that is go to Europe and invite. This is when they did the call to Ellis Island, give us a huddle, give us your poor, your tired, your huddled masses yearning to be free. This is when they put the call out to the Polish, they put the call out to the Irish, they put the call out to the Italians, they put the call out, well, they didn't necessarily put the call out to the Jewish community, but they pulled up after World War II. But what they did was they created, actually they did show up, actually. What they did is they pulled in all these skilled craftsmen. from these countries. And then they did it so that they can create blockades to stop black progress in this country. That was systemically done. Every time there's been a busload of immigrants to come into the country, it displaces black people. And we fall further and further down the list, further and further down the pyramid in regards of access to power, access to resources, proximity to power and resources, and ways to solve our own problems in the community.
Right. We're relegating ourselves to these lower class positions. We're basically putting ourselves out of competition, out of the game. We're putting ourselves in a position to get the crumbs of the crumbs of the crumbs.
But hold on, Joe. You just had a video up with Amos Wilson.
Yep.
Shout out to Dr. Amos Wilson, of the best black psychologists in the history of black psychology. So, and I'm saying black psychology. He's the best psychologist, period, in terms of analyzing social political structures and how it affects us. And he spoke to the fact that we, as black people, have been conditioned to think that just because 1 or 2 black people get put in the position of power, or 40 black people get put in nominal positions, whether they're executives and this, that, and the other, is we've been fooled into seeing that as progress for black people. We had a black president that supposedly that was progress for black people. But what he spoke to was so powerful. He spoke to the fact that there's not progress when there's exceptions to the rule. It's progress when the average people rise in power. Black people as a collective have been losing power altogether. I don't give a damn how many black millionaires you see. And Elder Neely Fuller even stated you're going to start to see the uptick in black millionaires. At the same time, the conditions for the basis of black people are going to become worse. He said 10 years ago.
But just look at actual real economic numbers. Look at it. Like they keep talking about buying power. Our buying power is increasing. That all that means is how much more money we spending with everybody else except us. That's all that means. And it's increasing. So as the buying power increases, is our overall wealth increasing?
Well, you know the answer to that question. Because we keep becoming more relegated to a lower and lower social and economic class, to the point where by the year 2050, it's predicted that black people will have 0 or negative worth. And collectively, that means you'll go out for your job and you'll make a paycheck, but whatever your debt is, whatever you owe, will actually supersede what you bring into your home. And because we don't really understand or even think far enough ahead to consider that, because we don't understand the importance of building families in our community, other people whose families actually stick together. This is one thing I'll give the undocumented immigrants that are here. Those families still stick together. And that's why they're able to pool. These communities stick together. That's why they're able to pool together enough power to actually even make this situation viable. Other groups of people would have been rounded up and out of here by now. You know, if it was that, if they didn't have the collective nature and the ability to work together as they did, they were moving around like people hiding Israelites during Israelis during the Nazi occupations. People in houses and basements and tunnels and back doors and shit like that, because they work as a community. And if you really want to take a step back, black people, and observe how groups, when they collectivize, how they can actually fight off a greater power base. Now, so you Negroes out there that's willing to get fire hosed and out there jumping in and getting involved in somebody else's fight, y'all about the biggest dumbasses I've seen since the last time y'all were out in North Dakota, getting fire hosed in sub-0 degree weather to stop a pipeline that didn't run through none of your neighborhoods. And
I want to shift here real quick and come back to it. Pat, help me. You the stats. You are statistics, man. So as I asked that question, I Googled it. And so it's talking about the answers that have been rendered are talking about a difference between like the actual wealth that Black people have and wealth in relation to white people, or the wealth gap. And so tell me, because I know you done some research on this, because it's saying that between 2019 and 2020, the median wealth for Black America has increased by $51,800. This up here is saying that the median Black household wealth increased by 60% between 2019 and 2022, nearly 45,000. It increased up to about 45,000, but this one down here from the Brookings is saying it increased by 51,800. Have you came across some of the stats talking about the increase in just the wealth of Black America?
I've seen stats that speak to, yes, the increase in the wealth of Americans and Black households in general. But the thing with a lot of those statistics that I've seen, and I'm not speaking to this Brookings because I know I've seen them, but I don't remember. A lot of those stats aren't inflation balanced.
Mm-hmm.
So, you got to balance for inflation, and then you also have to balance for a couple other things that make those numbers seem a lot less impressive once you balance it out. But yes, there has been a general increase in the numbers.
So also though, but when we're talking about this increase, because you made a point, the overall, wealth of, or overall income of Americans has increased over the years. But so it's because we know for like most Americans, but especially Black America, at the top, you got a few people who got a whole lot of money. They got a few people up under them that got a little bit, a whole lot of money. And then you got a few people under them that got a little bit, a whole lot of money. Then you got a whole bunch of people in the middle that's just making it. And then you got like the 17 to 20% that are like below the poverty level. And so when they're talking about the increase in wealth in Black America, are they talking about just the ones at the top or overall for Black America?
Well, that gets to be one of those things. Now, I will say in general, we are talking about an increase in wealth at the top. Okay. And that's what you're going to see anytime you have a debt-based financial system like we have here in America. Typically, the people that own the debt are better able to manage leverage are the ones that are going to yield the most benefits, while the people at the bottom are going to be the ones supplying most of the debt in terms of like bearing a lot of the responsibility for it. So in this economy, the debt acts like a wealth transfer system, extracting wealth from those at the bottom and transmitting it to those at the top. So there has been a general increase in wealth in Americans in general. And so even that, the gap, I believe, if memory serves correctly, the gap between the white community and the Black community, and we have to evaluate that because they're the standard, has grown as well.
Yeah, it's definitely increasing.
So even though we have more money as a community per the numbers, we're doing worse per the same numbers, comparatively speaking.
So bringing it back to the overall conversation, right? Because like the point you just made, right? So wealth is increasing, but Black America is not. Wealth is increasing at the top. Black America as a whole is not increasing their wealth. Matter of fact, there are a lot of Black Americans who are hurting. And because Black Americans are hurting, or Black Americans are just making it, Black Americans are leaning on government and government assistance and access to resources that governments and other agencies, supplemental government agencies, can't provide. So if we are advocating for especially a large influx of illegal immigrants to come in, that will be more mouths at the table for the same resources that we would be fighting for. So going back to what Dr. Claude Anderson predicted, us being third, fourth class citizens fighting for a minimal amount of resources. But in this, we're shooting ourselves in the foot and bringing more miles to the table for a small pot of resources that we already are having trouble getting.
Well, I think that's like the real fear of those that are genuinely afraid of the Medicaid cuts and things like that. They are afraid that by cutting these programs, they're going to disproportionately impact Black people. And go ahead.
But not necessarily, because that's where like organizations like mine, the federally qualified health centers, come in. Because we were just talking about that today. We could see those people. We have programs, we have federally funded programs that could give us that gives us money to be able to see those people who will lose their Medicaid. So federally qualified health centers.
But you're talking about the reality. I'm talking about the fear that people have.
Oh, my bad. I work in the reality. My bad.
Yeah, because these arguments are all based in fear. Like, and so the fear that is being capitalized on by Bakari in this particular situation and by other Black people that would see the Medicaid cuts and would begin to say, oh my God, this is bad. Because human rights issue is also code for the Black community saying, I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me. But instead of having the balls and the courage to stand up and say, I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me, we try some underhanded, passive-aggressive backdoor way of trying to make a point without actually making anything meaningful. And so I think that's something else that's being said here is by cutting Medicaid, you're putting components of my community at risk. And then they don't even realize that sets you up to be triggered when the response comes back that says, well, we're only trying to get people off that are lazy and that aren't doing what they need to do. Well, because in your mind, you've connected your community to this cut that's about to happen. When they say it's only going to cut people off that are lazy, in your mind, they just called you lazy. And now you're triggered and the conversation goes off the rails. And I think because there's an inability to be honest about that and to be like, that's why I think like you should be able to just stand up and say, hey, look, I'm worried about this affecting me. But because they don't do that, because they're cowards or emotionally inept, I'm not sure which, and it could be some other thing too. We get these sorts of off the rail conversations where now the white boy is just kind of poking you.
But also I think it's this an issue of having to be on the right side of history too. Pause.
Skip. Don't you do that now, Skip.
He did. He had his little Shannon shot. Come on now, Skip. Come on, Skip. You ain't gonna talk to me like that, Skip. Put your glasses on.
We're never going to be on Club Shay Shay.
Y'all ain't. I just laugh.
Come on, Joseph. You do a good impression of me because I'm from South Georgia. My grandma had holes in her roof, and now I got white girls trying to sue me. So.
But I do think that's what. And so, like, I think those fears could be addressed if we spoke to them, like you just said, Joe. That's not necessarily true. That is, like boom, boom, boom.
And I do want to be clear that what I was just talking about, federally qualified health centers or centers like that being able to absorb some of those people. I'm not saying that they're going to absorb all of those people. I'm not saying they have the answer, but I'm saying it is an answer to what is going on. So I want to make that clear.
I think the challenge here is that the Black folk that are speaking keep getting caught in these emotional traps and losing sight of the argument they should be making, which is what just happened. You're now caught up because if your fear is, and I'm not saying, I do think that's part of what happened. I also think like PC said, also this is about building the block, building the platform and creating wealth for a few individuals that are in the conversation. So there's that. But for a lot of people that are genuinely having this conversation and are genuinely trying to do something genuine about it, we had a situation where because they aren't being honest about their fears and concerns, it sets up a place where now you're arguing for a group of people that have been in competition and will continue to be in competition with you because there is no alliance there. And there is no stated desire on their behalf to even build one.
Right. Right.
So with that in play, now you're arguing for an opportunity to give a competitor a competitive advantage because you're afraid to speak up for yourself.
And it's like, man, if he don't know, then he probably. I do question the intelligence of a lot of people, but for me, it's kind of hard to believe that he don't really understand that, like, group competition.
Joe, I'm gonna cut you off because he don't understand, and this is the thing. And I'm not saying he's dumb, because I don't think people that don't understand are dumb. I just think like it goes back to levels of thinking. Most people, I don't give a damn how intelligent they are. Most people operate at about a level 2. The really good ones operate at a level 3. These conversations, in order for them to be meaningful, need to be had by people that are operating on at least a level 5 or a 6. This is what happens when you get people having conversations above where they're actually operating, either on an intellectual level, which I don't think that's the case here, or on an emotional level, which I do think is the case here.
Well, yes. This was a very, very, very emotional conversation, argument for him and a lot of those people. That's why buddy's like, you're real Democratic right now.
But, and I think the one of the more important things is when you become the emotional, irrational person, the person with the logic actually begins to control the conversation. The person that's cool and calm and collected, that's sitting back, just feeding you talking points for you to jump off the porch with, they actually look more competent than you. And so in that regards, it looked like only one man was having the conversation. And that in itself is a bad look on the black male public image, because if you're sitting there whining and so forth, and I was about to do another impression, but I'm just gonna get right to it. This whole notion of trying consistently to be the perpetual victims and align yourself with other groups through your shared pain,
trauma bonding.
It's weak. Yes. It's trauma bonding, but it's weak, especially when you're not sincere about it. To stoop to the level of saying black people come into this country where, it gets like, it's like this stuff that's being told in the new history books. They're saying black people were involuntary immigrants.
Voluntary servants or something.
Yeah, well, no, they say involuntary. This changed to involuntary immigrants now.
Okay.
And so that means it's one step away from saying slavery never happened. If you rewrite the books, eventually the people that read the books are going to believe what the books say to you. And then we got future generations, especially when we have people in our community that feels like history is boring because they don't know anything about their own history. And so they don't do their own research. They don't even seek to check out what actually happened to and why we're in our condition today. Then they struggle with being able to communicate, and it creates a situation where you can't even really speak intelligently about your condition. Knowing the history of how our communities got to where they are, right? Understanding how the crack cocaine epidemic was just the latest surge in the war on drugs, which was really the war on black people to destroy the black family unit. To understand the brokenness of our community, to understand the why our community, some people say we just need to get our shit together. There are obstacles designed in programming that have affected us in so many different ways. Structures. You can't build a house with a foundation of only 3, especially if you align it in the square, only 3 load-bearing load-bearing walls. You got to not one of any structure. You got to be able to understand and deconstruct how we got here. And then when you can, and so because we don't understand that, every 3 generations we have this generation of Negroes that think this is that the whole concept around protecting your own race and protecting your own community and being race first, all those things go out the water because we're in the post-racial time and history. Every 3 generations we seem to have this, where people forget about the struggle of their grandparents. In fact, I'm not my grandparents, remember?
That's what Jesse Jackson said when Obama won. He was doing all that crying to me when the post-racial America.
Yeah, so we're confused. All the great historians who've studied our conditions have acknowledged if you don't understand what racism, white supremacy is and what it means and how it operates and what it does, then everything else you learned only served to confuse you. That was Neely Fuller. But it was also the basis on why Dr. Frances Cress Rawson wrote her book, The ISIS Papers, in which a lot of the people who came later were able to base their works off of. And it makes sense, but if you don't know the precipice of why they foundationally created that work, and you're just going from the cliff notes, then you don't understand how the practical application of what they talked about is on full display right now. And so many people are just opting out because I don't know if they have the capacity to really understand or fully gauge the circumstances, or they just feel like that there's no hope for us, but they can be crash dummies for other people. But it's the situation that we're dealing with right now. It's like my house is on fire, but I'm filling up buckets of water in mine to come put out the brush fire in front of your house. This shit don't make no sense to me.
Well, yeah, basically, yeah. I know my house is ablaze, but you know, we've learned to decorate the fire and make it work for us. But your house, your house shouldn't be on fire because that's a human rights issue if your house is on fire, but it's a civil rights issue if our house on fire, and it can be fixed whenever people feel like fixing it.
But that's that, and it's going to go a little bit off, so I'm not going to dwell on it, but I do think it speaks to the collective delusion that we live in. In the Consumer Federal Finance Report, where a lot of these income-based stats come from, these wealth-based stats come from, and the most recent one was dropped in 2013, and I looked at it at the time, haven't looked at it since, but I pulled it back up since Joe was asking those questions. I shared it in the chat. But one of the things that is spoken to on that, and I'm just going to speak to 2 stats real quick. One is there was a question about whether or not you're uncertain about next year's income, right? And 60% of Black people in 2022 said that they were uncertain about next year's income, compared to 45% in 2019. So that's a nice tick up, but it also shows 60%. That's almost 2/3 of Black people were uncertain about next year's income, right? And then the very next question, do you expect a worse economy over the next 5 years, right? So in that, the answer for the Black community was 33%. So 1/3 of Black people, even though 2/3 of Black people were unsure about next year's income, only 1/3 of Black people thought that there was a worse economy over the next 5 years. And this was done in 2022. It speaks to the delusion. To the first question, we were the most excited, or we had the highest expectations of the economic situation over the next 5 years. And to the other question, we had the most uncertainty about our income over the next year. How do those 2 stats coexist with each other is beyond me, but it speaks to the delusion. Things are bad for me right now, but I don't think that they're going to get worse, even though they've never gotten better. That is the mentality that we are moving through life with. And it is one of the reasons why we keep seeing the things we're seeing.
We got to take our cape off, man. We got to learn to take our cape off. But we're the superhero who is in the sky fighting ourselves until we see somebody else being wrong. And then we want to go help them. And then we fly back up in the sky and fight ourselves in front of the whole world to see. And like the superhero just punching himself in the face, like whooping his own ass, just shooting it. Then he pull out a gun and shoot himself in the foot, literally and figuratively. Shoot himself in the foot. And then when something else is going on, everybody else, you go fly down to help them or try to help them. Because you remember the superpowers, he just can fly now. He just got the ability to fly. But superpowers was meant to talk shit. And we're resilient, so he's not gonna die. But he resilient, but he's not gonna be powerful either. But he can fly now. And so he can fly for the purposes of the world. See him fighting himself in front of the world, helping everybody else, or trying to help everybody else, but then coming up and fighting himself and wondering why I have no progress as a superhero, or wondering why you have no progress as a people, because we keep shooting ourselves in the damn foot.
We're Hancock, not the John Hancock of the Constitution.
We wish we're Hancock if Hancock was in didn't change classrooms in high school. Yes.
No, we Hancock, that's Will Smith.
Will Smith.
No, I get it, but I'm saying I'm adding on to it. If Hancock didn't change classrooms when he was in school, if he was special, that's the kind of Hancock superhero we are.
Oh, I get you. I think Hancock is bad enough.
That's too good. That's too good of a superhero. Got too many powers.
But you know what, PC, hold on. We can't say we Hancock because that's going to trigger the black women to attack the black men. Because you know how that movie went.
Because he had the white girl.
White woman is kryptonite.
So y'all don't like black women now.
You know how that movie went. The love of his life was a white woman, and he couldn't be around her because she made him weak.
Yeah. That was that. Yeah.
And she got to go off and have a whole family with a white dude, and he just got to be sad.
Well, hold on, y'all. This just came in, and this just came in off Google, so you know it's Google's factual. All right, okay. So, and y'all know I get all my facts straight from reliable sources. So what I'm just trying to say is, according to Google, everything that's happening is part of Project 2025. Okay, Joe, keep it rolling, Joe. We got content. Okay.
He whacked 45.
What's the Hancock thing?
No, that wasn't Hancock.
No, I'm saying what was your how were we like Hancock?
Because Hancock was no good for himself. He didn't start doing anything till he started saving the world for white folk. They cleaned him up and he became their superhero.
True.
Yeah, that's a fact.
True.
No, that's a fact.
True. He wasn't nothing like Blank Man.
They even talked him into going to jail. They even talked him into voluntarily going to jail.
Yeah, the white dude.
Oh, yeah, he did. He pulled the Colin Kaepernick before Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah. Hancock was real.
Oh man,
he was
the Hancock conspiracy.
He was stronger than everybody else.
Oh, we got JRS, we got Xavier syndrome, and then we got the Hancock delusion. Yo, things is really happening here. We're really coming up with something. But I brought that up because when I'm thinking about what Bakari Sellers and all the people who are pro-liberal Democrats are doing, they're just creating. And that's why I put that up on Google, because when I looked up the new welfare laws, and that's the first thing that came on the AI, right? That generates Google now. And I only brought that up because this is a Democratic ploy to say, we told y'all that he was going to implement 2025. So now they're tying all these new policies to allegedly to 2025 policy.
Yeah, bullshit.
Right.
But we can't read.
But people can read, they just can't comprehend. So if we're talking about Bloom's taxonomy, people are at the knowledge level of the pyramid. The comprehension part, they just know how to put the words together to make a sentence. Now we talk about the analysis and application part to make sure that you know the information. We just saw Bakari Sellers say that black people as slaves, Africans as slaves that were brought to America were in fact just like the immigrants that came here voluntarily and received benefits. Those black people provided benefits, but the immigrants you create that you're comparing us to receive benefits. And we don't even want to talk about the benefits, right? They had Kamala Harris gotten elected, right? There would have been more processes towards $150,000 towards down payment for houses.
Hey man, you look talking about illegals getting resources. If she would have been elected, please,
this
all you black people would have really been mad.
This would have been her favorite month of the year.
All you black people would have really been mad.
Let me show
really been hating. To my men's health, man.
Well, that's what we call it. A black men's health. Yes, that's what we call it.
Yeah, but man, you know, it's unfortunate and it's unproductive for black people to shoot ourselves in the foot when it comes to other groups, but also to try to downplay or even to equate our struggle, what happened to black people in America, to equate that to any other people just because they've had some kind of oppression, some kind of bad things happen to them in their experiences in their lives because of who they are, their color, whatever happened to them in their country, their area. To try to equate that to ours, it literally diminishes us and it gives us no dog in the fight. It puts other groups' interests ahead of our group. Like we have a history of this already. We saw this with the civil rights movement. We saw this with other movements after that, when black people are black people are allowing other people to hitch a ride on what's going on. We saw that with the feminist movement, allowing people to hitch a ride on what our movements are. We're not even clearly defining what we're doing, but allowing other people to hitch a ride on it. And that pushes us to the side. We're already complaining about what white women did, pushing people to the side. They getting what they need. Look at what just happened with DEI. Black women were the face of DEI. White women were the main recipients. Stop listening to folk like Bakari Sellers, especially on topics like this when they don't know what they're talking about. Like, really analyze what people are talking about. Don't just take it and run with it, because they're literally encouraging us to shoot ourselves in the foot and we already got both our hands, both our feet tied behind our back in this war. They want us to cut our head off at the same time, have no fight in this, and just be relegated to begging for crumbs. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not falling for the banana in the peel. And if you want to fall for it, that's on you. But us on the shoulders of giants people, we ain't falling for that. Ain't that right, my audience people? Ain't that right? So yeah.
Well, I don't know about you, but all my exes live in Texas.
I have an ex that live on Texas Street.
I have no content for that.
You want to know where he do got content? On FetLifeStation.com. That's where he do got content.
And Wack, I don't want no smoke, Wack. We good. I don't want Wack pulling up looking for a fade. We all right, Wack.
Nah, Wack got a story about you already. He ain't never met you. He got a story about your life.
I don't know who Wack is. So.
Wack 100. But hey, FetLifeStation.com. Don't even worry about Wack. You worry about FetLifeStation.com. Make sure you go there, check it out. ThePax.org. When I went live last Saturday, I took the people through the codes of conduct. So, you know, giving a shout out to the page and everything. So make sure y'all go to thepax.org, check it out. On the shoulders1.com. Support all the information, all the things that we are doing, all the initiatives are on these platforms. Make sure you check them out. comment, like, subscribe, share, make sure other people can see this content. Let's get it out. Let's get it out. I'm on my way to 100K. Hell, if y'all can help me get to 100K by the end of the year, that'll be live. I'm at 71K right now. If y'all can help me get to 100K by the end of the year, that would be so live. That means we over here doing what we're doing. We're getting this work in. And remember, everything that we do on this channel is we reflect what is a reflection of what we're already doing in our communities, in our larger lives. I know a lot of people come in our comments like, what are you all? You all are not doing it. Y'all not doing that. Y'all just sitting on YouTube talking. Y'all not doing that. Hey, come to Philadelphia, come to Charlotte, come to Tallahassee. And we're not even going to tell you what we do. Go ask the people what we do. We ain't even got to say it. Just go ask, because we real about this. And that's why we on here talking the way we talk. And that's why we still together as a unit doing what we do, because we serious about what we do. And we appreciate everybody who can recognize it and everybody who supports it on a consistent basis, everybody in our immediate lives and everybody that we've been able to touch and fellowship with through this social media. We appreciate all of you. We're going to keep doing what we're doing and rocking how we rock it. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones. We out of here. Shooby dooby doo.
I don't care if you sound do nothing.